And the business of this House suspended for the luncheon break. The Honourable Member for Elizabeth had reserved the floor. The Chair now recognizes the Honourable Member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It truly is a privilege for me to stand here to represent the voices of the people of Elizabeth. Mr. Speaker, I must say that I was disappointed to listen to the turn in the conversation in this honorable place this morning. It is most unfortunate that a bill such as this, which seeks to raise, to glorify, to give honor to the brave men and women of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, could have been sullied in such a disappointing way. You know, Mr. Speaker, I am not one of the four, and I speak about Southern Shores, Yamacraw, Seabreeze, and Mount Moriah, who would have served in uniform. But certainly, Mr. Speaker, in my brief remarks this afternoon, I would like, as I support this bill, to speak about my involvement with the Royal Bahamas Police Force. As you know, before I came into this place, I worked as a surgeon. And one of the things that would have typified my involvement with the Royal Bahamas Police Force was a relationship that was established with a gentleman who was, at that time, a sergeant. His name was Edgar Bain. Edgar Bain was police medical liaison officer, and he ultimately rose to the rank of inspector. And he had this interesting idea that perhaps when a police officer was injured, that the sooner a medical professional could get to them, that perhaps the outcome would be better. Mr. Speaker, in 1999, I'll remember it like yesterday, it was in March, two constables, one named Jimmy Ambrose and one named Martian Scott, were shot at by fairly nefarious villains who have since been convicted for their crime. Jimmy Ambrose came to the Princess Margaret Hospital, and despite efforts to save his life, he succumbed to his injuries. But that started a relationship with the Royal Bahamas Police Force that evolved over several commissioners, including Commissioner Farquharson, Commissioner Greenslade. And I would like to mention some of the other officers that I have been privileged to serve. In 2010, Inspector Archie Miller, who was shot while on duty. There was Police Officer Herman Pinder, who while on duty in the Princess Margaret Hospital was shot in the hospital. Mr. Speaker, we could remember Clayton Fernanda, who was shot in 2013. When we denigrate our concept or our view of these honorable men and women, as we did this morning, when we attempt to get political brownie points and not honor these brave men and women, we do them a disservice. There's a quotation, Mr. Speaker, and I'll just read it for you so that we can all remember and maybe remind the few, if ill of us they speak, that we are all that stands between the monsters and the weak. Mr. Speaker, when our men and women of the Royal Bahamas Police Force leave their homes, they leave their wives, they leave their children, they leave their loved ones, sometimes they don't know if they're going to ever come home. And Mr. Speaker, some of them don't come home. Jimmy Ambrose never made it back home. And there have been others. Martian Scott who gave evidence was subsequently murdered in 2006, never able to give evidence in the final trial that led to the ultimate conviction and the upholding of that conviction in the appeals court. So, Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I have come to treasure is this. It's a gift from the Royal Bahamas Police Force given to me, and I'll just read it. The Royal Bahamas Police Force salutes Dr. Dwayne Sands, a man who has unselfishly given of himself for the health and welfare of police officers. Mr. Speaker, I don't think words could possibly explain to you what an honor and a privilege it is for me to have provided service to these honorable men and women who have given selflessly of themselves. They are the true unsung heroes. They, like our nurses, who go above and beyond. They, like so many individuals who don't have big titles, who may not get a significant paycheck, but who do the best that they can to serve and to protect. Mr. Speaker, Romans 13:4 says, "For he is God's servant to do you good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword for nothing. He is God's servant, an agent of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer." Mr. Speaker, I could talk about the fact that this free national movement government sought to do right by the Royal Bahamas Police Force and the brave men and women that serve. I could mention the CDR intervention in 1999 that looked to determine exactly how we should modify the complement of officers in the force. I could speak about the fact that in April 2007, how there were 449 police officers promoted without any regard to that CDR report. Efforts were then made to correct, to right-size, to balance the Royal Bahamas Police Force. In 2014, again, another 600 officers promoted. I want you to take a look at the timeline and who happened to be in office during those times. Mr. Speaker, we should never, ever politicize such an important part of the fabric of our democracy. I would like to close, Mr. Speaker, by reminding everybody listening to me that many of the men and women who have served, who have been injured, or who have been killed, have left behind dependents. I want to remind us all that there's a Royal Bahamas Police Force Police Dependents Trust. And as you decide whether you are going to give charitable contributions, consider them. And with that, Mr. Speaker, it is a privilege, it is an honor to recognize these men and women who serve. And I close and I wrap up this debate to say thank you to these men and women for all you do for the people of this great country. And with that, Mr. Speaker, Elizabeth supports this bill, and this side is happy to close this debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're my hero, man.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the law relating to the election of branch board members. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. Order that the bill be read for a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the law relating to the election of branch board members.
Further second reading and committal of bills.
Mr. Speaker, there are no further second readings, but I would like to give any members
that are in the precincts of the House the opportunity to come to the chambers, because we are now going to move into Committee of the Whole so that we can pass the three bills that we have on the agenda. So I do now move, Mr. Speaker, that the House resolves itself into a Committee of the Whole with the Deputy Speaker in the chair.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the House now dissolves itself into a Committee of the Whole House with the Deputy Speaker and Leader and Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House in the chair. As many as in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. The House now will dissolve itself into a Committee of the Whole House with the Deputy Speaker and Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House in the chair.
Yeah, it's a long time, yeah.
Committee of the Whole. Chair recognizes the member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to deal first with the bill that we've just gone through debating. And Mr. Speaker, I do move for the long title to be agreed.
Mr. Speaker, I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many members are in favor, the chair recognizes the member for Yamakura.
I stand and move that the long title be amended in the following terms and to be read as follows. A bill for an act to amend the Police Staff Association Act to amend the laws relating to the election of branch board members.
I order that the amendment be brought up. It's been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be amended as follows. A bill for an act to amend the Police Staff Association Act to amend law relating to the election of branch board members. As many as in favor remain seated, those opposing will rise. The amendment is agreed. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I do move that the short title be agreed.
Mr. Chair, I do second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated, those opposing will rise. The short title of the bill is agreed.
Mr. Speaker, I do move that clauses 2 and 3 be agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that clause 2 and 3 of the bill be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated, those opposing will rise. Clause 2 and 3 of the bill is agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I do now move that the bill in its entirety be agreed, as amended.
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
Been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety, as amended, be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated, those opposing will rise. The bill is agreed. The bill is agreed as amended. In its entirety. As many members of favor remain seated, those opposing will rise.
Mr. Chairman, I do now move to the Commercial Recreation Watercraft Amendment Bill 2018. Mr. Speaker, I do move that the long title be agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
Being moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated, those opposing will rise. The long title of the bill is agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I do move now that the short title be agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I second that.
Being moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. Many members that are in favor remain seated. Those opposing will rise. The short title of the bill is agreed.
Mr. Chair, I do now move that clauses 2 through 11 be agreed.
Being moved and seconded that clause 2 through 11 of the bill be agreed. As many members that are in favor. Chair recognizes the member for Angliston.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to highlight for the member for Bamboo Town the amendment 8B, which speaks about the minister's power to determine from time to time the number of crafts of any type or class that may be registered at any one time. But I want to highlight this coming out of the debate. Notice of which number shall be published in the Gazette. And I believe that this is, and then it goes further, where the minister proposes to increase or decrease under subsection 1, the maximum number of any craft referred to in that subsection, he shall cause his proposals for that purpose to be published. And I want to highlight the purpose of this is to ensure transparency, which was the issue that we raised in the debate earlier. There has to be transparency in these issues, and the law, this will require it, but the current law requires it. So I just wanted to highlight that for the member for Bamboo Town.
I thank the member. Let me thank the member for Angliston, and just reiterate to the member that, we intend to be fully transparent in the issuance of licenses in the watercraft business. Mr. Speaker, I also, Mr. Speaker, I do now move that the bill in its entirety be agreed. Mr. Chair, I second that.
Been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated. Those opposing will rise. The bill is agreed in its entirety.
Mr. Speaker, I do now move to the Water, Skiing and Motorboat Control Amendment Bill, and I do move that the long title be agreed. Mr. Chair, I second that.
Been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated. Those opposing will rise. The long title of the bill is agreed.
Mr. Chair, I do now move that the short title and commencement be agreed. Mr. Chair, I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the short title and the commencement of the bill be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated. Those opposing will rise. The short title and commencement of the bill is agreed.
Mr. Chair, I do now move that clauses 2 through 6 be agreed. Mr. Chair, I second it.
Being moved and seconded that clause 2 through 6 of the bill be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated. Those opposing will rise. Clause 2 through 6 of the bill is agreed.
Mr. Chair, I do now move that the bill in its entirety be agreed. Mr. Chair, I do second that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
Being moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many members that are in favor remain seated. Those opposing will rise. The bill is agreed in its entirety.
Mr. Chair, I do now move that the Speaker takes the chair. I second that, Mr. Chair.
Been moved and seconded that the Speaker now do take the chair. As many members that are in favor remain seated. Those opposing will rise. The Speaker will now take the chair. Cut back, leave to advise that the committee has gone through the bills, with making amendments there too.
Honorable members, the Deputy Speaker and Chairman of the Committee of the Whole House has reported that the Committee of the Whole House has gone through the 3 bills, having made amendments thereto.
Co-deputy leaders.
Honorable members, third reading and passing of bills. Chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, I do move for third reading and passing for a bill for an act to amend the Police Staff Association Act to amend the law relating to the election of branch board members. Mr. Speaker, I do second that.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read for a third time and pass. A bill for an act to amend the Police Staff Association Act to amend the law relating to the election of branch board members. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. Order that the bill be read for a third time and pass.
A bill for an act to amend the Police Staff Association Act to amend the law relating to the election of branch board members.
Order that the bill do now pass and the title thereof be declared to be the Royal Bahamas Police Staff Association Amendment Act 2019. Further third reading and passing of bills.
Mr. Speaker, I do move for third reading and passing of a bill for an act to amend the Commercial Recreational Watercraft Act. Mr. Speaker, I do second that.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read for a third time and pass. A bill for an act to amend the Commercial Recreation Watercraft Act. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. Order that the bill be read for a third time.
A bill for an act to amend the Commercial Recreational Watercraft Act.
Order that the bill do now pass and the title thereof be declared to be the Commercial Recreational Watercraft Amendment Act 2019. Further third reading and passing of bills. The
Mr.
chair
Speaker,
recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, I do move for third reading and passing of a bill for an act to amend the Water Skiing and Motorboat Control Act. Mr. Speaker, I do second that.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read for a third time and pass. A bill for an act to amend the Water Skiing and Motorboat Control Act. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. Order that the bill be read for a third time.
A bill for an act to amend the Water Skiing and Motorboat Control Act.
Order that the bill do now pass and the title thereof be declared to be the Water Skiing and Motorboat Control Amendment Act 2019. For the third reading and passing of bills. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Mr. Speaker, there are no further third readings.
Consideration of Senate amendments. Resolutions. Members' statements. The chair recognizes the honorable member for South Beach.
May it please the Honorable Speaker. Speaker, I thank the honorable people of South Beach for this privilege to speak on their behalf and serve in this August Assembly. I wish to extend to the family of the Reverend Levi Charlton our deep sympathies, prayerful support in this time of their bereavement, the loss of their father and grandfather, Reverend Levi Charlton, who died on May the 6th and who will be funeralized this coming Saturday from St. John's Native Baptist Church. Mr. Speaker, may I beg your indulgence with deep respect, sir, as I am now coming into the awareness of some information in my capacity as the Minister of Education. And if I may, with your permission, sir, just speak to viral video that now is circulating,
Leave, leave granted.
which has created some disturbance in our Bahamian community, certainly within the community of the education establishment in our society. And it is in respect of a young lady who is a member of our school community. And I wish not to say anything further in identification of that individual. It just is quite disturbing to me, Mr. Speaker, as the minister responsible for education in the Bahamas, that the insensitivity and the abject disrespect that is exercised in our circumstance here in the Bahamas with regard to minor children who have now become the subject and the object of ridicule and disparagement and offense. Sir, as an attorney yourself, there is the Electronics Communications and Transactions Act, which speaks more specifically to commercial matters. But it does have a provision somewhere in, I think, Section 20, that also speaks to the transmission of information by electronic means which could be considered to be defamatory. And I am sure that our government is going to, at some point, apprehend the necessity of whatever means may be necessary to protect the vulnerability. And students are, in our estimation, which we know in law to be persons under disability, to protect their vulnerability from incalculable harm, which, as you know and I know, Mr. Speaker, can extend well into posterity in their lives. And the circumstances, which I presume now is known to this community and this assembly, has exposed the identity of this individual with such a graphic representation that it is nearly impossible for her to hide, and for the persons related and associated with her now to be mortally offended by this issue. I just wish to appeal to our Bahamian community, to our adults in that community, to please, with the great facility of discretion, exercise sense and sensitivity to our young people. If adults wish to expose themselves and parade themselves before the electronic world in a manner which brings or visits ridicule and abuse upon them, that's their business. But children, your Mr. Speaker, must enjoy the protection of the civil society in which those children are required to exist. And I am disturbed, Mr. Speaker, as I become more aware. I am now advised, sir, and I wish to advise this honorable House, that the circumstances attracted the attention of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And again, it is a deeply disturbing circumstance to her family and to everyone affiliated and associated. The entire school body, I don't want to name the school, is now upset, if not traumatized. I'm grateful to Elizabeth for this, especially an incident, a school environment which has been, unfortunately, the subject of some public observation with regard to other unfortunate instances of this type. Never mind. I leave it there, sir. I just ask our community to exercise great discretion. And if necessary, I invite our government to consider punitive sanctions 4 persons who knowingly record by electronic means and to display or forward or transmit to the wider community, world community, matters, incidences, circumstances, acts which can bring an individual's life into endless and probably unimaginable disrepute.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Further member state the chair recognizes the Honorable Member for the Exumas and Ragged Island.
On the graces of the people of Exuma and Ragged Island, I wish to commend all of the recent students who graduated university, Mr. Speaker, but I'd like to point out 3 who deserve special commendation. Firstly, Mr. Speaker, Shade Lockhart Bain, a student and a graduate of the Ragged Island All-Age School. The first student, as far as I know, who has graduated the Ragged Island All-Age School and gone directly to university. She graduated St. Benedict College of St. Ben's, and she has studied nutrition. She's completed her course of study, and she is now well positioned to make an eager contribution to our society. I commend her and the people of Ragged Island. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, Erin McKinsey, and thirdly, Whitney Curtis of Exuma, who received full scholarships recently from Michael and Tina Cartwright to attend the Mid-Tennessee State University. They were lauded by the president of the University of Bahamian, Mr. Sidney McPhee, as top achievers in their class and as persons who completed their education in record time, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I take this opportunity to commend all of them who have performed capably. Mr. Speaker, this raises the question of the importance of these schools in these communities. Firstly, the Ragged Island All-Age School, Mr. Speaker, remains dilapidated and out of service, and I trust that in this upcoming budget, Mr. Speaker, Ragged Island School will not be forgotten again. Shade, Lockhart, Bain, and others will really appreciate, Mr. Speaker, the duty of care by this government to ensure that every student on every rock and key across our country is given the same opportunity to excel. And therefore, the people of Ragged Island will be waiting the upcoming budget debate. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Further member statement. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Angliston.
Thank you, Speaker. I just wanted to raise a few concerns in Angliston. I'm glad to see the Prime Minister is here, one of which is the issue of the over-the-hill exemptions. I know the Prime Minister spoke about Angliston recently, and I'm wondering whether we can know when those exemptions will come to the good people of Angliston. I also want to raise again the issue of derelict vehicles. I have communicated with the Prime Minister and the Minister for the Environment, and the Prime Minister has given assurances, but I just wanted to say it's still not addressed, and that we're very concerned in Angliston about the number of derelict vehicles, because as we know, they are a hazard in the environment. In fact, you know, in Montel Heights, there was a child that went into an abandoned vehicle one time and did not come out alive. But it's also a place where guns are stashed, and it creates, it harbors rodents, and brings down the quality of the environment. So I'm again pleading with the government to give an attention to this issue for us. The other issue is, and I had spoken previously to the Minister of Works about this by WhatsApp, but I think in future I'll formally communicate these things, to do with the state of the sidewalks in Angliston, particularly the Lincoln Boulevard area, which is in the area of the park, which requires serious attention. And I would invite, as I did ask the Minister at the time, that we use contractors from the community. On the issue of the park, and I see the chairman is here, and I just want to thank him for his usual accommodating spirit in these matters, but the sign for the Angliston Park is deteriorating, and I meant to call him today, actually, if he could assist us in dealing with that. On the issue of the students, I want to also commend two students. One is Jamal Brown. He is from the Montel Heights community, and he just graduated with a Bachelor of Sciences degree in pharmaceutical science from Pennsylvania State University. And the Prime Minister is very familiar with Montel Heights. I think he has connections there. And he would have been there with me when he was leader of the opposition when we unveiled the Montel Heights Community Center, which I partnered with the Montel Heights Community Association. In fact, I was able to partner with them in the formation and the legal work, and also in the construction of that community center. But he is from the Montel Heights community, and he's done exceptionally well. And I also want to finally recognize Kieron Knowles of Palm Beach Street community. He completed a degree in kinesiology from Missouri Southern State, and this is a young man who had to struggle tremendously to get through school, he was not able to access a scholarship, I think because he did an associate's degree first, and whatever the mechanism, he couldn't, but he's a very brilliant musician, and he worked very hard and his family to put himself through school, and he has done it. And this is the beauty of the people of Angliston. Despite the tremendous odds, for one reason or another, they are able to exercise the greatest degree of resilience and what's the word I want? I guess victory over all odds, Mr. Speaker. Sorry? Over all odds. And so I want to send my congratulations out to those two young men and their families, and to congratulate them, and indeed all students who are graduating in this season of 2019. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Carmichael.
The Honorable Member for Angliston. And I want to assure all of my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, that I'm here for every member of Parliament. My job is to assist and facilitate what your needs are. Mr. Speaker, on the 28th of March of this year, I received an email from the Honorable Member for Angliston. That email says, "Dear Minister, I'm requesting assistance with repair of sidewalks in Angliston. As you are aware, many residents commonly utilize the sidewalk. If you agree or you are able, will you also consider utilizing contractors from this community? I'm grateful for your usual kind assistance. Regards." On that very same day, Mr. Speaker, I responded to the member, as I always do. I said, "Thank you, colleague. Please advise which streets you wish for us to look at." That was the 28th of March. I still want to assist the Honorable Member for Angliston. All I would wish for her to do is respond and let me know which street she'd wish for me to look at, and we will be able to seek to assist her with those sidewalks. That's my job. That's what I'm here for.
With you the email, I thought that I had answered the member and said that in the area of the park, I thought I'd said that specifically, and I will do a search on that, and I did answer him, and so I'd invite the member to check his emails in that regard. I indicated the area of the park.
Right here.
Speaker, yes, I see it.
My email's right here. I am Speaker. I don't have no reason. No reason to mislead this House. I'm here for Angliston.
I did that.
I'm here to serve.
Mr. Speaker, so the member is indicating, and as he's now here, I'm indicating that the area of priority is in the Lincoln Boulevard area, which is the thoroughfare to the park. And it's in the area of the school, E.P. Roberts Primary, so there is an urgency for that area, and I would be grateful for the minister for his addressing of that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Kalani.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to respond to the member's concerns. It is true that I do have close contact with Montel Heights. I have had siblings within that area. And the member mentioned about the exemption extension to include the Angliston constituency. I cannot give an exact date at this time because, we must work with finance so we can know the financial implications, and the boundaries are designed depending on the implications. As for the cars, yes, I had mentioned to you that we would move those. We're introducing a program, especially for the inner cities over here, which would include both Angliston, St. Barnabas, and Baintown, and Centerville. What we would do, and we would encourage you to get your residents involved. We're prepared to pay each resident $50 to move their cars. We would have monies in the budget, and they would be paid so that we could move the car and clean up all of the Angliston and the adjoining areas. Angliston is very dead to me. You know that. The F&M don't have a representative there. And in fact, I've told them that I am their unofficial F&M representative, so I'm quite familiar.
I was not just reminiscing on the Prime Minister's roots in Montel Heights. I was reminding him that he was there. In fact, I had a photograph. I posted it. Yeah, you saw it, yes. Yes, that the member was there as leader of the opposition when we
This morning.
the opening of that wonderful multi-purpose community center, which is really way before, I mean, that was years ago. That was about 7 to 8 years ago, and it's utilized to the wider benefit of that community. And they will tell you, and yes, the member for Golden Gates will know, because I went there with him. I'm very active and closely involved with the people of that community. And so I was just reminding the member, because I believe he forgot that important date, that date you had.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Tall Pines.
Good morning. Good day, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I just want to remind residents of Tall Pines that we will be continuing our cleanup efforts in the constituency. The last 3 weeks we've been putting bins around, and we've erected a new community sign, subdivision sign in Victoria Gardens. I hear the member for Angliston putting in orders for parks. I want to put in my order also to the good chairman with regards to the parks that we built in Tall Pines. We still don't have the signs there, but he has promised, and I'm sure he will deliver. Speaker, so we have a meet and greet in Tall Pines in Polling Division 6, which will be held on a vacant lot next to Conliffe Bakery. So I just want to invite persons in that area of Tall Pines to be there this Saturday between the hours of 11 and 2 o'clock. We'll be discussing community issues, and there'll be light refreshments. Also want to invite members of Tall Pines to our monthly meeting at Galvantine's Primary School this Thursday at 7 o'clock. We'll be discussing, Mr. Speaker, the recent immigration bill and the other bills that were recently passed in the House of Assembly. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, honorable member. Further member statement. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Baines and Grantstown.
I just rise to thank the wider community and definitely the community of Bain and Grantstown. April 27th, 2019, the community, we held our first music and street festival. And as the Member of Parliament, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the residents in the community for supporting the initiative, and to my parliamentary colleagues, those of you who came out to support on behalf of the community. I want to thank you for your appreciation, for your support on that day. Mr. Speaker, we would have had roughly about 3,500 members of the community who attended our street festival throughout the day. And one of the things that I'm most proud of, Mr. Speaker, at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning when we concluded the street festival, and we got the update from the Royal Bahamas Police Force, who ably assisted us on that day of, we did not have one incident that took place throughout the entire duration of that festival. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that is what happens when we provide the opportunity for people to come together in a safe environment, to have clean fun and enjoyment, and to spread peace and camaraderie amongst the people in the community. And since then, Mr. Speaker, we have had great reviews of the festival. Certainly it is something that we will have every year continuing. And I want to thank, as I mentioned, the people of the community for their tremendous support. I want to thank Bahamas Waste publicly for stepping in and providing all of the portable toilets and all of the other stuff that we got from them as well. And Mr. Speaker, we look forward to many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Ready to go.
Further member statements. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Long Island.
Remiss of me not to thank the Honorable Prime Minister, the member for Kalani, for coming to Long Island this weekend and celebrating Mother's Day with us. I can tell you that the people of Long Island are still talking about that visit. And so, Prime Minister, I want to thank you for that. The community turned out, and the island remains quite pleased and happy that you decided to spend Mother's Day with us. The island is still abuzz. Mr. Speaker, I also want to speak to the passing of two giants in our community, one being Mr. Willis Harding. Willis Harding, he is a noted businessman in Long Island. I remember as a little boy, one of the joys of going into his shop is that he had everything in that shop, and I could always be sure that I was going to get something free, a little trinket, some candy, or something along those lines. He was known throughout the island as a community builder, a helper, someone who had a heart for people. He had a golden heart. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to extend my condolences to his family and to let them know that they're in my thoughts and prayers. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to give condolences to the family of Miss Louise Pelicanos. She lived in the Militant settlement of Long Island, and she was a known drawer vendor, small businesswoman, etc. She was notable from end to end. She served in local government as well. And one day, on Monday, after the passing of Mr. Harding on Sunday, she too passed on from this side to the other. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to extend my sympathies to her family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Further member statements. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Yamacraw.
Just two brief statements. First, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank all of those members of Yamacraw who came out and participated in us spreading the joy of Mother's Day and assisting with us going to almost every home to meet and greet with mothers in the constituency of Yamacraw. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend and encourage and thank those members of Yamacraw who have come out to assist with the clearing of what they call the Brent Seminate Park. Mr. Speaker, that is a park, yes, where some almost 2 acres of land was not cleared, and we partnered with the Correctional Services Department, and we saw where inmates, low-risk inmates came into the community, Mr. Speaker, and we have almost finished, completed the clearing of that park. And what we were able to do, Mr. Speaker, is to also preserve some of the natural inhabitants, the raccoons, who are now in the trees and still living in the area. So I want to thank the community members who've committed to assisting in that regard, and who've also committed to going into the prison and showing our gratitude to the Commissioner of Prisons and to the inmates for their kind assistance. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to encourage all and sundry that there's a whole wealth of talent just sitting in the prison, and to see those young men come out, work in the community, provide services, and then we go in and give them some training. It inures well to the society. I would just like to say to the constituency of Yamacraw that we will be holding a monthly meeting, and I want to thank Senator the Honorable Renard Henfield, who's coming to speak to us on the topic of local government in New Providence. So he'll be coming to speak to us on Tuesday. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for West, Grand Bahama, and Bimini.
Speaker, Yesterday, I was honored to take part in a ceremony at the West End Primary School celebrating the girls softball team that won the championship for Grand Bahama. We are indeed proud of our young students at the West End Primary School, Mr. Speaker. It is important for us to recognize our youth. So many negative stories are out there with regards to our young people, and so any opportunity that this representative has to take part in anything that is positive with our young people, I am always very happy to do that. And I say this with the fact in mind that West Grand Bahama continues to be one of the communities, as well as Bimini, that promotes the majority of rather many athletes in this country who do exceptionally well on international scale. And we are hopeful that in knowing this, that there will be continuous efforts to ensure that we are equipped with all of the necessary sporting facilities that is needed to make sure that our young people are able to reach their fullest potential without any of those being in our community. I'm just very, very proud of those young girls who at that point in time didn't even have a softball field to practice on. But at the end of the day, they came out champions. So can you imagine what they can do if we do have those facilities, which as their representative, I will continue to appeal for. And I am proud of them. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Further member statement? Honorable members, there being no further member statement, I just wish to express my condolences to the Penniman family of Nassau Village, in particular Everett Penniman, on the passing of his son. And I want to notify all of the residents of the recent announcement that the monies will be made available in this year's budget for the removal of derelict vehicles. Now, in the Nassau Village constituency, Mr. Prime Minister, we have many lots with multiple derelict vehicles. And so I don't know if that was taken into consideration for the budgetary arrangements. But we are in the process of cleaning up Nassau Village. And I had a recent incident that I've already reported to the Minister of the Environment, where one particular individual resisted the government efforts to clean up what is really an eyesore in the middle of the community. For whatever reason, he didn't want his property clean, even though it was being done and there was no cost to him. And I'm certain that there must be laws. I'm not familiar with the law at this time with respect to the environment, so I had contacted the minister, and he has indicated to me that there are legal provisions for the government to move into any area in the best interest of that area to have the environment cleaned up. And so I want to put all of the residents on notice that we do intend to continue our cleaning program and the removal of those derelict vehicles. Now, on an interesting matter, on the 23rd of May, that is next week Thursday, we are hosting a town hall meeting at Sadie Curtis Primary School. Many of you may have seen the flyers going around with the member for Nassau Village, which has been identified for the southern zone, flanked on the left and on the right by two beautiful ladies, one from Fox Hill, the member for Fox Hill, and the other for Sea Breeze, who are from the eastern zone. But the event is a town hall meeting on the WTO, and it is being held at the Sadie Curtis Primary School, 7 p.m. on the 23rd. And Sadie Curtis happens to be in the Nassau Village constituency, so I'm not crossing zones. I've been invited as the Member of Parliament for Nassau Village because that is the location of the event. So we invite all residents of Seabreeze, Fox Hill, and Nassau Village who may have concerns about particularly all of the negative that is being passing around with respect to the WTO and misinformation. If you want answers, come out on Thursday, the 23rd of May, which is Thursday coming. Sorry, next Thursday, next week Thursday, at the Sadie Curtis Primary School. Thank you. Appointment of select committees. Instructions, correction, to select committees. Discharge of select committees. Notices for future meetings. The chair recognizes the honorable member for the Exumas and Ragged Island. Thank you, honorable member. Chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
And signals that the House will convene again on at 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 22nd of May, 2019.
Honorable members, is there a seconder?
I know you. Second.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the House adjourns to Wednesday, the 22nd of May at 10 a.m. As many as in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. Final adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, I do not move that the House adjourns.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the House adjourns to 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 22nd of May. As many as in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. The House stands adjourned to 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 22nd of May.